To start the final session, I'd like to welcome another incredible patient advocate, Dr. Srividya Iyer. Dr. Iyer moved to Melbourne in 2020 with her then 2-year-old daughter and husband, and she was starting specialist dental training in oral medicine. She was fit and healthy, but had some pain and then unexplained sudden weight gain. She went to the emergency department and then she advocated to have a CT scan, and she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Following chemotherapy and surgery, genomic testing indicated she should have further treatment to give herself the best chance, and as you'll hear, it came with a very hefty price tag. But within 4 weeks, and with the help of Rare Cancers Australia, she could raise the funds she needed. But she believes that the inhibitor that she received should be available to all women diagnosed with the same cancer. So please give Dr. Iyer a big warm welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Srividya Iyer. It is an honor and privilege to be here as an advocate to share my ovarian cancer survivorship story as part of RCA CanForum 2023. Sorry, that went. Standing here 3 years post-diagnosis, in complete remission from advanced high-grade serous ovarian cancer, I'm confident, I'm hopeful, happy, and connected. And this is a testament to the support and assistance of my oncologists, my treating team, and foremost to my parents, my sister, my husband and his family, and most importantly, my 5-year-old, beautiful, I wish, my 5-year-old beautiful daughter, Raima, who's my sunshine. So, as we know, there are two sides to the coin. They are different, but have a closely related feature. And in my case, it was cancer. This slide really resonates well with me and my situation at the time of diagnosis. Not only I was working at Peter Mac at that time, but also was getting treated. Ovarian cancer, as we know, is a gynecological cancer arising in the ovaries, fallopian tube, or in the lining of the abdominal cavity, which is peritoneum. And ovarian cancer typically appears as masses on the ovaries or fallopian tubes, but can spread to any other location in the abdomen. And there are different types of ovarian cancer, and it can arise from the ovary, and type of the tumor will determine the treatment required and the long-term prognosis. And as we know, there is currently no screening or early detection method for ovarian cancer. So what causes ovarian cancer? There's a long list here, and the first one is, of course, age, which is a big factor, and the risk of developing ovarian cancer, and it increases as women get older. Inherited genes, 20% of the ovarian cancer arise in women who've had inherited a gene like BRCA1 or BRCA2. Lifestyle and environmental factors like smoking, obesity, lack of exercise can also contribute to a greater risk of ovarian cancer, and use of HRT, which is the hormone replacement therapy, is also linked to increased risk of developing ovarian cancer, and other conditions like endometriosis. And the last one, as in my case, was bad luck. That's what my oncologist said. So a bit about my journey as a patient. So it all started in January 2020. I was accepted at the Melbourne Dental School to start my specialist training. And I moved with my husband and at that time, my 2-year-old daughter. I was fit, I was vegetarian all my life and hardly drank, never smoked, and had no genetic predisposition. Little did I know there was a major roadblock ahead of us, and that was going to change everything forever. I started developing some right groin pain, which would come and go, but wasn't strong enough for me to stop doing what I was doing. Then in the last week of August, I started experiencing an extreme bloating sensation. I put it down to changing my diet because I was going vegan, and I just blamed my vegan diet. I started feeling my tops were getting tired, and that was within a span of a week, basically. And my weight jumped from about from 61 kilos to 68 within a week. And I thought, oh, the scales are dodgy. Of course, they're always, isn't it? And I asked my husband, and he goes, you do look a bit round, but... And he said, oh no, it's the lack of the exercise given the pandemic and your love for ice creams. So he saw me, of course, just even taking steps on the stairs was hard for me, and I was puffing, and that made him really question, and he said, you need to get this checked. I presented to ED, and within the span of 3 hours, I had multiple tests, and a junior doctor then told me, look, your bloods look normal. There's some blood in the urine. Do you mind if I get one of my senior colleagues to come and examine you? And I was examined, and I had some abdominal discomfort on the right. And I was told, it's IBS. And I just shook my head, and I said, I'm not coming back. I was asked if I would return next day, and I said, because of my clinical commitments, I'm not able to return tomorrow. And I requested and I demanded a CT scan. And within about half an hour, I was shifted to a different room, and the penny dropped then. I was told there is a mass on my ovary. Of course, I thought, oh, maybe a cyst. And then their expressions changed, and I was told I have a massive lesion on top of my liver, and it's everywhere in my abdomen. And my primary tumor on my right ovary was 13 centimeters long. I was in denial. I kept saying, I've had a pap smear. This is my medical background. And my gynecological history was absolutely clear because my daughter was born just 2 years ago. I don't know what was worse, the diagnosis or hearing it alone and having my husband back at home with my daughter. I was numb. I gathered some courage to call my husband, who thought I was calling him to come and pick me up from the hospital. I said, it is malignant, and I kept saying that. And my husband's like, what does that mean? And I said, it's not good. That night, I was transferred to the women's hospital, and I was greeted by one of the nurses who I would never forget in my life. And I practiced what actually she preached to me that night. She said, well, you know it's going to be a tough time ahead. So you've got two options. Stay awake, think about it all night, or take the sleeping pill. And prepare for what's ahead. I did. I chose option 2. When I was woken up in the morning, of course, I was woken up, I learned my diagnosis, and it was ovarian cancer, and it was quite advanced. And I was told that I had only a few months up my sleeve. I was lined up for paracentesis because I looked like I was 6 months pregnant. And all the fluid was drained from my abdomen, followed by the horrendous MRI. The waiting game to receive my staging, depending on my scanning, was the most impatient I ever felt. I was still awaiting my husband to come and see me while this all was unfolding, and due to the COVID-19 restrictions, he was only allowed to visit me for an hour. With whatever remaining courage I had, I called my sister, who lives in the US. You can imagine my wait was for her to wake up and to tell her this. I was just waiting. And when I called her, of course, she was distressed. And we both kept crying and saying, how are we going to tell mom and dad? The toughest part of my entire journey was telling this to my parents. They were in India at that time, and they were desperate to be my side once they found out. They finally managed to get to the only flight, which was from India to Sydney, due to quarantine, of course, and arrived after my first cycle of chemotherapy. My oncologist at that time said to me, we're going to get through this. That was her opening statement when I saw her. It is bad, but it could have been worse. So let's get it done, and I want to see you in the corridors of Peter Mac working as a professional. Let's get it done. That gave me an immense hope, what I needed, and my husband and I were at ease. As I mentioned earlier, my primary tumor was 13 centimeter on my right ovary, and the rest were numerous small masses, along with one on top of my liver. I started chemotherapy, and I started also having scalp cooling to reduce and limit my hair loss. And halfway through it, I was like, it's just hair, doesn't matter. I shaved my hair, and I stopped the hair cooling. I managed to continue exercising, working, and continuing my specialist training, and that's what kept me sane, and all my colleagues at Peter Mac Dental Oncology team and at dental school kept my hopes and spirits up. After my third round of chemotherapy, my CT showed I had some shrinkage, but not enough. And I would need some liver resection. My heart sank, and that picture really not depicts what I was feeling when I was told that I might need liver resection. I met the surgeon who has been amazing, and along with the lower GI surgeon when he walked into the room, he had such a thick Irish accent. I told my husband, when he finished, I said, I did not follow a word of what he said. And my husband's like, your guess is as good as mine. My surgery was on the 13th of November, a day before Diwali, which is a very significant Indian festival. And I still remember kissing my daughter and my mom before I left home and saying to myself and her that my work here is not finished. I was wheeled into the theater. I had my daughter's picture and my Ganesha idol. And my surgery lasted 8 hours, and I regained consciousness to see all my family and to hear that I was cancer-free. And all the cancer was removed. I felt weak but determined to complete my chemotherapy, and I had 3 more rounds of that. So to start with my CA125, which is the marker, which of course is not accurate 100% for all the ovarian cancer patients, but for me, it started at 6,200, and the normal limits is under 35, and it jumped, and it came from 6,200 to 21 at the end of the 5 cycles. My challenges, as I said, the first one was COVID-19, having a young family with minimal support in Victoria as we moved from WA. Of course, it came with a big financial blow. Having been diagnosed with a rare cancer is, of course, a major challenge because along with the burden what you are dealing with, you've had another curveball thrown at you where you are having to use up all your life savings for life-saving treatment. Biologically, a roller coaster ride with chemotherapy and surgery, and I had 18 months of nausea and extreme fatigue on the PARP inhibitors. And of course, the fear of recurrence, which lives in any cancer patient's mind, it's always there. I didn't qualify for any trials or any other novel therapies at that time. My first question at the initial appointment was this, that am I eligible for any trials? And I was told no, I was not. And also the last thing is the funded and compassionate access to drugs are determined by the tumor origin and not by personalized medicine. So how genomic or genomics access fitted into my patient story is after my 5th chemo cycle, I was told that I had about 70 to 80% chances of recurrence because I was diagnosed at an advanced stage and my cancer becoming resistant. So my oncologist said, whatever we have to do now. No point to close the stable door after the horse has bolted. And that's what she said to me. Having the medical background, I had read a lot of literature and also following on social media forums. I had read what was the best practice in USA and UK. And along with that, I had this conversation with my new oncologist at that time. Sorry. And she and I both agreed that PARP inhibitors is something we can look at. After that, she recommended that I have this test, which is the My Choice CDX test. And it was not Medicare funded, and I would have had to pay $5,500. So a bit about the testing itself. Our DNA constantly being damaged and repairing itself. This repair process is called homologous recombination. When our body is unable to repair breaks in DNA, this is called homologous recombination deficiency, which is HRD. And it means that in those with diagnosis of ovarian cancer and those whose tumor test positive for HRD, cancer cells have a harder time repairing themselves. So, yay. So 3 weeks after my last review with the oncologist, I found out that I was positive for the test, and I was advised to contact Rare Cancer Australia to help generate funds and raise awareness about this dreadful disease. I was told at that time that the drug would cost anywhere between $7,000 to $7,500 a month. I was not working full-time because I'm still training, and registrars don't make that much or don't make anything at all. So being a private person, and of course my pride, the first thing I said, no. I told my oncologist, I'm prepared to sell my house. She said, you're not selling your house. I want you to contact Rare Cancer and look at a bigger picture. What hope does a single mother or someone living out in rural Australia has? They have no awareness. And this is something where, because ovarian cancer, the symptoms are so vague, we just put it down to the usual. It's maybe I'm coming near my cycle, or just fatigue, or just life stuff. Within 4 weeks, we managed to raise about $200,000. And I never imagined that I would be able to do that. I started my PARP inhibitor journey in March 2021. And that came with, as I said, 18 months of nausea and fatigue. Fatigue where at 8:30 at night, after finishing my clinical placements, I would come home and sleep. If you actually exploded a bomb in the next room, I have no idea what was happening. It was that fatigue. In this time of difficulty, actions like these really instills our faith in mankind and in humanity. I'm ever grateful to all those 501 supporters who came along and donated. There were some nurses who I worked with back in WA who struggled to make ends meet. They came along and donated. There were some students and some patients who I had treated for a long time. And again, family, friends, all. I cannot thank Rare Cancer Australia and my oncologist enough for introducing me to Rare Cancer Australia and for all the support they have shown so far and continue to do so. So of course, there have been a lot of lows and a lot of ups, and there have been some highlights which I've just put on the screen here. I was able to work throughout my treatment. I managed to submit my master thesis. I managed to get on the plane, that was the highlight, and went to the Outback as part of Royal Flying Doctor Service. And I'm almost finishing my specialist training. And I was able to generate the funds and also able to advocate and go on social media platforms and on newspapers and TV to be able to raise the awareness for ovarian cancer. So now, on the other side of the coin, when I play my role as a clinician or wear my clinician hat, what do? So as an oral medicine specialist, it is a specialty of dentistry that is concerned with the oral health care of medically complex patients, including the diagnosis and management of medical conditions that affect the oral and maxillofacial region. These conditions include oral mucosal conditions, orofacial pain disorders, temporomandibular disorders, salivary gland disease, oral complications resulting from systemic diseases, and chemosensory and neurologic impairment of the oral and maxillofacial complex. Having lived through, of course, this experience of cancer, I'm able to relate and empathize with my patients. A bit about head and neck cancers, because that's the area I work in. Despite the substantial efforts invested into the therapeutic development of head and neck cancers, the 5-year survival rate of the patients with head and neck cancers is still it remains dismal. And currently, surgery and radiotherapy represent the baseline treatment options for most stages of head and neck cancer patients. And these treatments are associated with significant morbidity and poor prognosis. So in the end, my key lessons and messages: listen to your body, advocate, and one glove fits all approach is no longer the answer, and we should be moving towards precision, personalized medicine, and genomics is the future. And you are not a statistics. I'm still standing here. I was given a few months. And just the last slide, which is what I want to sum it up as. Looking back, like so many women had no significant symptoms that would easily identify ovarian cancer, even though I was in the late stages. I'm okay now and the best version of myself. I hope I have won the golden ticket. And I do desperately want to live and live life with full capacity with my daughter, my husband, my parents, my sister, my family, and friends. I have a lot to contribute to the community. Together, I hope we can continue to raise awareness and improve early detection, but for now, most importantly, for us diagnosed and for those in future, it should be personalized medicine and genomics at the forefront of cancer treatment. I want to finish by saying this quote from Rumi: "Try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let the life live through you. And do not worry that your life is turning upside down. How do you know the side you are used to is better than the one to come?" Thank you.